house of saviors.
Hand over to you. But while I hand over to Mr. Godswill, if you have any question, please let us know. Drop it in the chat room. We're going to ask him questions after now. So over to you, Mr. Godswill.
While I'm waiting for the video to come up, I'm going to first by thanking Tolani, the moderator today. You've done a great job bringing a lot of nostalgic moments. The video was something else. It was something that normally was quite emotional for me, and it touched a major core of some of the things we're going to be talking about today. It's not a lecturing time, it's just a family meeting that allows us to tell ourselves the home truth. And I am kind of person that believe in that kind of family meeting where we tell ourselves the home truth. But one thing that is critical around the videos that we watched and everything that we saw there was a long-term thinking pattern. You know, there's a joke. I was in a training where somebody made a joke and said a lot of Africans don't even know what dinner they're going to have today. They're not sure of their lunch or what the nature of the lunch will look like. It shows the way we think. But a Chinese man understands 50 years from now. So small wonder why they are the way they are. So this discussion today is going to start from, are you a short-term thinker or are you a long-term thinker? These are the things that determine whether you will. You know, Tolani, one of the things that happens when you finish watching this kind of video is everybody gets upset. You know, initial gra. I'm going to ensure that I create generation. That's how all of us did Bobo, of how our children will go to Harvard Business School. They are not in college, they are not in any Harvard Business School. That's how we did all the gra. My father, they trained me in one local school. I will ensure that when these kids grow up, they will go to the best schools in the world. How market? Where are they? That's on a lighter note, but technically, it's the same process that we're going to be talking about today. So today, we're going to be looking at some of the patterns or behavioral ways that we had embraced earlier as Africans growing up. I probably belong to a stronger backward generation. I'm happy that in today's world, 10 years ago, this meeting we're having would have been almost impossible. You can imagine next 10 years, what will happen. We'll probably be shaking hands through the internet as we're talking. Okay, so this is the best time or the wonderful time. I'm excited I met this time in my life where it's easy. You know, every time I talk about wealth, I say it is easy. You know, and I know a lot of people buzz me after the last class to say, it's not easy. and I can only but laugh. The easiest thing to do today, guys, is to create wealth. Easiest. You know, as long as you have some kind of revenue. I don't want to know how much. Don't tell me how much. You know, I don't want to know. Because when you try to qualify how much, it becomes a bit subjective. But if you can drop your mindset and learn the rudiments of some of the things we're going to be talking about today, maybe that will help. I'm going to start this discussion by first Praise cracked me up when he sent the introduction and said risk analyst. I said, oh, wow, maybe Tolani, after this class, you guys are going to send me another certificate. Say risk analyst. I've never seen myself as a risk analyst, but let me tell you one of the things that how I became a strong person in risk is I haven't lost so much money in my lifetime. Guys, I lost money, no be small. Try family and friends, people you consider big brothers, big sister, they never say anything wrong. When they say jump, you say how high? You jump. When you lose the money, it's like hiring who you can't fire. So I've hired so many people I can't fire. You keep them around, but you lose your money. So after all the losses, by way of training, I sat and I asked myself, how can I stop? Which is one of the discussions you're going to have today. For adventure, you're my club. I don't know how many of you in my club who have lost tons of, okay? In the hands of, you don't want to know how many lands I bought and disappeared and lost them. See how much I put in investments. I don't even know what they're doing because all I needed was how much am I getting at the end of the day? So many of us are in that bracket. But having done that, you need to now break that pattern. Today's discussion is more of pattern behavior. Because let me tell you guys, poverty is a lifestyle.
Hello.
To where we were, I talked about having lost a lot of money, and I decided, you know what, it's nice to now stop. And how do you stop? You don't stop by making up my mind, I'm stopping. No, you start by asking yourself, how did I get here? How did I get here? What are the conditions that were there when I got here? You found some of the things you see. We have few of us here who, Africa is a place where we worship money, technically. So when a guy shows up in a conference class and he's coming up with all the grandiose, looking looking prim and proper, looking chauffeur driven, he comes out as a speaker, they come to open the door for him. Some of us, if we're not careful, drop our guards. That's a behavioral pattern. You naturally will drop your guard. You think, this guy knows what he's doing. This is what he's been doing and he's looking this way. What he's doing must be good. So I have to listen to anything he's saying. I must take everything he's going to say here, hook, line, and sinker. And that is a pattern that you need to break. Okay? That pattern you need to break. I have gone for a session in a church. Every time I remember this, sometimes I will laugh and then tears will come out of my eyes. I went for a session in a church program somewhere in Lakey, VI/Lakey, and I drove into the place with my car, which was a Toyota Corolla 2007. Even though that car was a new car, as it were, because I was not allowed inside. I was the speaker. The gate man said I should park outside. I was the speaker. All the hall was filled. As a matter of fact, because of hold up, I came late. Normally, I would come to a place that I'm speaking on 1 hour to the time or 30 minutes to understand the seating arrangement because there's a power in understanding the arrangement. That day, I came when everybody was. So I was asked to park outside. That the place is full. In front of me, cars were moving in. You know the type of car that were moving in? Bigger, stronger cars. We are driving in. I was asked to stay outside. So I tried to work on the psychology of the gate man. I couldn't convince him. So I quickly packed outside. It was only when I came out and then carried my bag and laptop and my jacket, and then the organizers saw me and then started running towards me. And I was saying, hey, no, you can't park. You can't park outside. And then I got outside and then I gave him my key to repark the car. But it taught me something. It's taught me something. It's not what you want to get that matters. It's who is giving it. Who, not what. Who, not what. So I'm going to jump into this class with a first case study. The first case study I'm going to talk about today is my grandma's church. Grandma's church. Because we're talking about some African patterns that we need to embrace and then we need to throw away. I've given you a few of them. We worship money. That's it. Some pattern we need to throw away. We worship grandeur. We need to throw that away. We get our guards down when we see the individual, not what he has, but who he is. We let our guards down. We need to throw that away. But let me go back to a case study of my grandma's church. Growing up as a child, I lived in the city, but I enjoyed being with my grandma every time. So all the holidays I'd like to spend with my grandma. So my parents would drive me to the village and drop me there. And then I had a time with her. So I have a very strong grammar background. If you're in the house, you have grammar background too, please, all about, but we are here. So, but that's something I learned, that eventually when I became an asset manager, it touched my bone marrow of why Africa have lost it in creating generational wealth. Let me tell you my grandma's story. Every morning, my grandma will wake me up, and then we'll do our prayer. We'll take our broom. We're going to sweep the church. After sweeping the church, we go to sweep compounds across, not just our compound, other people's compound. While you are doing that, other people will join. This thing I'm talking to starts around 5 a.m. We actually start with lantern, so there is no lights. So start with lantern, we go sweep compounds. I'm talking about every day. No single day misses. So if I dare oversleep, like I said, you get a knock on your head, oversleeping. So grandma will wake me up, and other people who also came for holiday, and we go to first sweep the church. After sweeping the church, along the path of coming home, we'll sweep every other place. What does that taught me as a young child? Community's lifestyle to get the whole place clean. Community style to get the whole place clean, not individual, because no single individual could afford to do that alone. So a community was involved. That's number one. But let's go again to another one that blew my mind, farming. In the village, farming was the normal thing. So grandma style and the group of farming was the farm together. So you know what? And in one thing that blew my mind, which is one of the things I observed here too, is that 90% of the people who did this were women. 90% of them were women. I was scrolling down the names of the people in this class. It blew my mind also that it looks like grandma has chased me to this place again. 90% of the people who were doing that were women, and they were all very wealthy women by their lifestyle, because they did together, they bought things together. By morning, people are already knocking on our door. They want my grandma used to sell fish and stockfish. So early morning, all the community people are coming. We don't want to buy fish. She has not even gone to the market. The fish is finished. Now, when it came to farming, that was a lifestyle that I also observed. They farmed together. At the point of tilling the ground, they will put money together to hire a tractor that would decide which day of the week each of the owner's farm will be farmed together. They stopped using their hands to do that. They would put money together, and a tractor that was owned by the local government will come in and decide with a timetable. Of course, RBT was written down. This is the farm you're going to track. And then the farms are overlapping. Everybody owned at the same time. So the tractor will till the ground. In 1 week, all the grounds are tilled. In the next week, which is they would allow the ground to be ready for farming. The whole community, women again, will come together and go to one person's farm in 1 day and complete all the planting. And when it comes to weeding, the same process continues. And of course, at that time as a young child, I was there, but I didn't understand it until the second phase of my life ensued, when I became an investment banker. And I saw a grandma model show up again. And it's called IPO. Yeah, funkified. The name is beautiful, called Initial Public Offer. I'm sure a lot of you were involved in the frenzy of 2006, 2007, 2008, where the capital market was going bubble through different levels of initial public offer, where a lot of insurance companies, bank stocks were being quoted on the floor of Nigerian Stock Exchange, and everybody was buying, and some people made a lot of money, some people would, before the crash and after the crash, and we came back to square one. But let me tell you one of the things that also happened. Grandma model showed up again. And how does it work? Initial public offer is a situation where few individuals who start, maybe a bank, let me use UBA, Tony Elumelu and a group of guys who call themselves bank directors, decide we're going to take this bank to the next level. So they decide to do an initial public offer. And then they say, we want to call the public to be part of this bank we're building. We want you to be part of this bank and buy initial public offer. You can only invest the initial public amount of 10,000 minimum and 100,000 maximum, or 1 million maximum, or 5 million maximum. And then what happens? A community of people gather together again to put money together to create a big bank. See, the same model of coming together to own something that is bigger for your personal benefit. So the initial public fund is created, and then they create a big bank of 25 billion worth of bank. The 25 billion naira that was put together was not owned by the 5 people who came together. Their share there may be 5 billion. The remaining 20 was brought by the public under IPO. That's another communal style of creating something big that will outlive each of the members who contributed. We're discussing generational wealth. Generational wealth is saying, don't go it alone. Don't be a silo. Don't bring a silo mentality. Bring a community. Who am I going with in this journey? Must be part of that. And how many years are going to be doing this? Long time in nature. That's some of the characters you must bring to bear. Initial public offer. So I remember last week I did tell us to read up. Don't take my word for it. Read up the dividend yields of some of these companies we're talking about. Go back, do your own personal research, because personal development is critical in House of Savior. Go out there, check it out. Check out the dividend yields of Zenith Bank, the dividend yields of UBA, the dividend yields of GT. If you don't understand how to read that, you can buzz me or let Praise connect with me. Let me get you through the process of how to understand this, because that is one of the ways these guys have used the communal lifestyle to create something big, and everybody involved in that process is a beneficiary of that process. I remember the last time I talked about a church, I said I was going to mention that church, but today I'm going to mention that church because I have done my own homework and discovered that a number of years I've been there, I can now open up about the church. Another one I'm going to be talking about is the church system as directed before now and now. And then you see where we missed it, and where we can get it back right and do it better. It's the Zion Christian Church in South Africa. This particular church created another grammar. In fact, pardon me, I'm using grammar as an acronym of community lifestyle that I experienced, and that has directed the paths for which I've been doing a couple of things, and they are successful because it's difficult to fall easily when you have people holding each other together and moving in a certain direction. So church as is done before and now. Church system before was a community lifestyle where we had somebody is ill, all of us will show up in their house with every manner of, somebody will show up to take care of the person, somebody will show up to do all the cleaning of the house, somebody will be asking, have you eaten? I experienced that type. I don't know about you. I did experience that. If you had that kind of experience, if you're, once you put out, I know that you're a very old woman. If you know you had that kind of experience in the community church I'm talking about, you can boss on the chat box, tell me just a thumb up. So I had that experience, because right now I don't know what you guys are doing in church today. I had that experience, and I'm talking about communal lifestyle then and what it is today. So somebody will show up to cook. Somebody will show up to ensure that they don't even care your family members are there. They just come and they just take over. So your family will be just dragging and struggling to meet up with the level of care they are going to show you in that space, So and in no time, the person gets well because of the community level of love that is shown, the community level of care. And some of them will bring yam as they are coming. Nobody, in those times, nobody visits somebody who is sick empty-handed. It doesn't matter whether you're rich or poor. So there was some high level of philanthropy and gifting in that space, where people were not selfish. People didn't think so much about themselves. They thought more about the community space, because they know that whatever happens here, we're going to replicate it to everybody here, truthfully, with trust. And that continued to happen in that space. Go back to IPO. The IPO model is what taught me also that it's easier to become wealthy when you come together to drive that process. But there's something that is added to the IPO that I want to bring to Phil. I mean, when Praise was talking, sending a message, he said risk analyst. And that's one area where a lot of us missed it in the past. And that's why a lot of our wealth do not cross our generation. As a matter of fact, we have too many people who leave liability for the next generation. You're talking about wealth, creating more wealth. A lot of family. I mean, I was involved in trying to settle a debt of a friend whose mom died and left so much debt that the person in question could not even believe that her name was the guarantor of some of those debts, and she had to sit down to create a repayment plan, and I was invited to advise on how this repayment plan. So I was involved in negotiating with institutions on how this debt to be paid, and that's it. So, but adventure you're here, you didn't even get generational wealth; you got generational liability, unfortunately. But what is going to happen today is what next? How can we change that pattern? How can we change that paradigm? And I'm talking about the IPO again. So one of the ways you got to do that is to create a strong risk management framework. Okay, let me tell you how the IPO comes to bear. Why the risk management framework is actually what determines how far your generational wealth will happen. It's not a one-man thing. No one man takes decision. No one man person takes decision of what to do or what not to do. So what do a UBA IPO means for them? They bring a financial advisor. A financial advisor is somebody who is going to structure this deal of how we're going to raise capital out there, community raising of capital. But there's a financial advisor who does all the paperwork, who says, thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. And that will be adopted by the people who are raising this capital. Number one leg, financial advisor, risk management. Another leg is Nigerian Stock Exchange. Another exchange who is going to list these shares comes on board and say, you know what, we don't like the way you're going to do this list. We must ensure that no single person is going to own this percentage of shares when we are done with this process, so that there is transparency in the process. There is no one man cornering everything to himself. Remember, a lot of times when we go into family and friends businesses, you see one man cornering everything and telling you what to do and what not to do. That's another framework that needs to break when you want to create a generational wealth. Transparency. When that is done, because it's a bank, a CBN shows up and says, we are the regulators of this business. We will ensure that every director who is in this bank qualifies to be a bank. Let me ask you one question. When last did you get involved in a business with people when you actually qualified the people who are in the business? I want to see your chart. How many businesses have you been involved in? And how many times did you qualify the people who are in that business? Remember when I started this class, I say it's not what, but who. What will create your generational wealth is not what you're doing, but who is doing it. I want to see your response. I want to see how many times you have gone into a business and then you have gotten people to profile the people who are doing this business, and then you have qualified them to say this guy qualifies to be part of what we are doing. Rarely, yeah. Sometimes I've gone to a meeting where we're deciding director and say, let's hold hands together and pray. I don't know about you. They say, let's pray. Anybody who's in this meeting who will cause katakata in this meeting, may God remove him in Jesus' name. Are you getting with African mentality? Now, and that's just one of the things that are happening in most of the business that has come in and failed woefully, because the Holy Spirit will not bring competence. The Holy Spirit will not bring so much of a character. A bad person is going to be a bad person outside the business and inside the business, because it's a pattern of a lifestyle. So you have a CBN who comes in to qualify. So let me share the list of your board member, people who decide what this community money will be used for, because the community money is not your money. It's an IPO. It belongs to all of us. But everybody must not come to the seat to manage the process. So we're going to have 10 people who is going to manage. So CBN takes that role to say, send us the CV of this person or the people. Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can.
Hello, Tolani. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thank you. So CBN take that role to say, I don't want to qualify everybody who's going to be in this. So the question is, in creating the generational role, who is qualifying the people who are leading that team? Is there a process put in place to ensure that everybody who's coming on board, you have looked at their, you can't even get the money from a bank without doing track. They even go and do your credit history. They're going to do your character. They're going to find out how many banks are you owning. They're going to find out how many people have you defrauded. But oftentimes, as people outside this podium, we don't qualify the people who we're dealing with. We take their word for it. That is not how to create a generational wealth. Who is qualifying them? You're going to spend some time understanding, guy, I want to know what you have done in the past. Can you send a CV or where you have worked? We want to find out your profile. How have you even been able to do this kind of stuff in the past? Because CBN will do that for every bank director. But how come we want to do our own? Somebody just mounts into a seminar or webinar and speak grammar and tell you what he has done and show you slide of how they travel to Australia, because that's always a common slide. A common slide you see when you show up in a seminar or webinar. You see them with flying first class or flying PGs. If they want to, if the money they are raising is too much, they will show you how they flew private jet, and they will show you the houses where they. Once anybody shows you picture, I've said it here many times. Once you go to a webinar and they are showing you picture of plane, picture of hotel, picture of car, pack your things and run. It has not passed the #1 risk management framework to put down your money, because it's not what you have done, it's who is doing it. Who is doing it? Now, I'm using a case study of an IPO to describe for you the patterns that must emerge. The patterns that must emerge. So CBN comes to profile all the directors and say, no, I have been in a process where some of the directors were disqualified. I said, no, does not qualify. I said, what happened? He said, there was a particular tax of 2018 he did not pay. Say, okay, let's go and pay it now. Say, no, it's too late. You can't pay it now. We have done what we need to do. It's too late for you to pay now. You can go. We have disqualified you for the fact that you didn't pay that tax of 2008. And the guy is wondering why, but he's one of the most qualified people in this board. I say, no, a man who cannot pay tax in 2018 and is moving and moving well. We don't want to hear, we don't want to know what he can do when we put proposed money in his hand. That's pre-qualification. And that's one of the things about risk management framework I'm talking about. Pre-qualification, people who are. So every time somebody tells you to join a business model, ask him, who are the promoters? Who are the promoters of this? Ask more questions. Ask questions that nobody is interested in asking. Or maybe you're coming to a seminar. The guy said, welcome to the podium, the managing director of this Labaja Nigeria Limited, who has done this and done this and done this. The question session. Okay, where have you worked before? Number 1 question, what have you done before? Number 2 question, can I see the financials of this business we have done? You have done it for 5 years, so let's see the financials. The financials will help us know your historical about what you have done. In recent times, somebody sends me a profile and say, there's this thing we're doing here. We want to be part of it. We had the light where you spoke. We want that's okay, Carl. How long have you been doing this? He said 4 years. Okay, I believe you have audited account. He said no. So you've done it for 4 years, you don't have audited account. You say, okay, do you have a financial that I can read up? He said, they're trying to work on something. I said, okay, do you have a management account? I will talk to the MD to see if, I said, but you said you are the one again. You're one of the promoters. You speak to the MD to know how the financial management will be sent to me. Say, of course, your case is as good as mine. I can't get involved in such rubbish. Does not qualify. Because you're going to get to a point where you now understand the metrics that once you ask the first question is not answered, the second question is not answered, you tick. No. But one of the things that's going on today is, I don't know, because this class is the class that would normally take, this class takes at least a week to finish, but I'm squeezing it into 1 hour, 1 hour, 15 minutes to see how we can get out. So for the IPO framework, I'm probably going to hang it there, and then look at other things so that we can cover up. I've been talking about how to create, but let's look at some of the things to avoid. Some of the things to avoid, I've mentioned a few of them in terms of what and who is the person doing it. What is the profiling? If the profiling of the people who are behind is not good enough, the business will never be good enough. Let me take it again. If the profile of the people who are behind the business is not good enough, do not start praying for miracle. It's not going to happen. Once the profile is below par, the business will be below par and eventually will disappear and your money will disappear. I'm sure if you sit down already and think about some of the areas where you lost money, you will almost begin to understand why the money you lost them. Because you didn't really do a good work. It's only in Africa that somebody wants you to do investment for them. They don't want to show up to understand the business. But when they want to go buy their clothes or shoe, they don't send anybody to do it for them. They go themselves. So we major in minor and minor in major. You're going to be willing to send 1 million naira without knowing what they're doing. All you know is that every month they'll send you 3%, but you're not interested in what they're doing. You're not interested in financial. You're not interested in who is doing it. You're not interested in what have they been doing. You're not interested in what are they buying. You're not interested in what are they selling. You're not interested in doing a risk framework of that business. You're not interested in the marketing of that business. You're not interested. But when it comes to your own personal buying of shoe and bag, you go yourself, irrespective of the direction it's taking you. I'm saying that pattern must change. That pattern must change. Okay, so you need to create that. Let's look at some of the things that we have also avoidance. My avoidance will go into more of a psychological side of avoidance. What's your relationship with money? You know, when Tolani was talking, he mentioned Oshun, where I grew up. I'm going to shock you today to let you know that sometimes today's life, your relationship with money today stems from your relationship with money in the past when you were still a child. That is one thing a lot of people still do not understand how it plays, because as a child, you have been wired in a particular way to relate with money. Today we're going to assume that money has a feeling. Money is an emotional being. Money loves who loves it. If you take care of money, money will take care of you. Are you getting where I'm coming from? Money has got emotion. So let's use that emotion to talk about things that we have done and still doing today that is creating a misalignment between where you're going and what you believe. You know, sometimes you believe something, you want to go here, but you discover that every morning you wake up, you're not going there because there's a misalignment between your subconsciousness and your reality of today. And that's why people can stay in the church and jump up and down and jump. As soon as they get to the road, everything they learned in church disappears because their default state takes over their life. Now let's look at the default state that we have today, relationship with money. Some of us had a very poor relationship with money. I mean, I'm sure many of you have heard the story of money does not grow on trees. Don't go close to the people. You don't know how they made their money. Or you are growing up, you say some of your neighbors who drive big cars, say, no, we don't know, don't touch, don't touch. At that point in time as a child, you're creating some level of psychological blockage between you and money. And if you're not careful, you carry that into your adulthood. And what happens oftentimes is that's why most of the time you don't want to be in the part of people who are taking decisions on money. You send people because you haven't developed an alignment between money and yourself. More like you're not in good relationship with money. You're not in good talking terms with money. Let me use that word. Because of that misalignment. But you want to make money, but you're not in talking terms with money. That's another area of what has happened to some of us today that has created inability. You love to do it, you don't want to do it, but you just find that you're not doing it. You're asking why. Year in, year out, you're going for all the seminars, you're going for all the personal development. 5 years down the line, you do your analysis on where you are. You haven't quite made much progress. You're asking, what's wrong with me? What is going on? What is going on is that all these years there has been a misalignment between where you're going and your subconscious mind. So two of you are not going the same place. And that's some of the patterns that needs to disappear. So the question is, how am I going to recreate this? You're going to go back in time. You know, like that this computer that doesn't have an Excel, you're going to go back in time and begin to, I always say this a lot. If you have an app on your laptop that you have not used for a while and it's not It's not occupying space. It's not allowing you to do the things you need to do with that. What do? You delete. You need to begin to touch the delete buttons of your life regarding money. Some of those delete buttons is going to hurt you. Some of those delete buttons is going to hurt your family. Some of those delete buttons is going to hurt your family, friends. Because you know what? Some of those patterns that has happened over the years has been driven by some of these family members you hold dearly to. It's about time you delete. Some of them are friends you grew up with. Like Lani said, I am from Oshu. So probably the time she landed in Lagos, if she's in Lagos, she started moving around with Oshu. Wow, we grew up together, we went to school together. Ah, my friend, far back, we've been together. But what she doesn't realize is that these far back people are still carrying around them with the baggages and default state that is holding everybody down. So at this point in time, I'm asking you, sister, delete. Press the delete button so that you can recreate a new pattern for what you're about to do. Because you know what? We can make all the noise here about how we want to create generational wealth. If you carry along with you the patterns and the baggages that are in misalignment with the lifestyle that will create a long-term wealth, it ain't going to happen. It ain't going to happen. So today is about look around you. Just like the laptop, just like the system you have, check all the applications you have on your life, applications that are running against your generational wealth creation, and press the delete button today. And again, you know, nature about vacuum. When you create a delete button, you must replace it with something. So you must replace with a new pattern, because if you don't replace with a new pattern, the old pattern will show up again. So you need to begin to fine tune or process or replacing with a new pattern that allows you to continue to do the things you want to do in line with generational wealth creation. So what do you do with a new pattern? What kind of friends do you need now? What type of people do you want to listen to? You know, consistently, habitually, so that you can continue to diminish the old pattern and express more of the new pattern that aligns this to begin to happen. One of the things that needs to go away in creating generational wealth is among the African community, there seems to be too many of competition against collaboration. There is a lot of competition. I'm going to tell you, we don't have time to go because I have about 5 minutes. Lani, tell me how many minutes do I still have? Because I'm rounding up now because we haven't quite touched much, but we're going to round up. Just let me know how many minutes I have so that I can begin to round up. Lani, are you there?
Yes, I am.
How many minutes do I
How many
have?
more minutes I give? Okay, so you still have about 15 minutes. But I
15
want
minutes,
us to
okay?
take questions, so I will not give you up to 15 minutes. I'll give you 10 so that we still
Okay,
have
10.
time to take other questions. Because I have one question waiting for you already.
Okay, 10 minutes time. I'll round up with this. I'm still talking about the patterns of competition in the African community that is not allowing us to create generational wealth instead of collaboration. A typical example is in Nigeria. I lived in a state that had about between 200 and 220 houses, and all the houses are relatively well-to-do people who their cost of generator to power our house is technically will range between 500,000 and 1 million naira. So let's keep it at 500,000. Average house in that space has a generator of 500,000 to power that house. And then if you put that around 250 people, that's about 225 million naira to buy all the generator in that house in the entire estate. 125 million naira. But if you look at the KVA of that's generated in that house within the morning and nights, in morning, because they are all business people, working class people, everybody leaves, nobody stays home. So the consumption is low. But you know what? Nobody's willing there to put together a particular money that will not be up to 50 million naira to buy a central generator that will power the entire house in that place. You see what? Everybody wants is. Nobody wants the communal generation of power. It will cost one generator. You know how I know? I was involved in developing a 42 apartments in a particular location in Yaba. And then I only got a one single generator to power the entire house. And it struck me. This entire house is equivalent to some of the houses I have in my estate. How come I'm only using one generator to power everybody's house? And that generator was bought for 27 million naira. And then in where I'm coming from, everybody buys his generator. And that's number one. Everybody has his own water. So everybody dug their own borehole. An average borehole in Lagos today, as at when they did it, was ranging between 200 and 250,000 naira. So if you also look at what it costs each house to do borehole in that same space, it ranges to about 62,500 average, 62,500,000 average. And each of those borehole has a lifespan of between 4 and 5 years. So another 5 years, you have an issue with the borehole, you either do another one, you replace it, and then you do your own again separately. And there is a silos mentality in Africa that is not helping us. I live in an estate currently in America where the houses here are more than what I have in where I'm in Nigeria. There is no borehole. There is no single borehole. There is a community electricity. That's actually a community internet, which is what I'm using today. So what has it done? There's economics of scale in that process that allows everybody to save a little bit of money in that process. So that's another way that we need to come together as Africa. So the silos mentality of competition in Africa, you need to begin to throw them away. I'm going to go into institutions that are currently practicing that you need to understand that it is not noble to play silos mentality that we have been taught today in Africa. Everybody wants to do his own thing. And that was how Uber came to bear. Uber, I'm sure a lot of us understand Uber, Lyft. Do you want to own the car or you want to ride? That's the question. Because if it's going to cost about 5 million naira to own a ride, I mean, I worked in a bank where we'll buy big cars and then come to work in the morning, drop it in the morning and start the car again around 7 p.m. to go home. And then we'll do that for 4 years. And sometimes we'll use the car to go to church where we're going to show off that we have a big car. And then we'll go to church on Sunday with our family members, and then we'll drop it back. And then the car that you bought with such amount of money is lavishly depreciating on a minute by minute basis. And you don't even know how much you have lost. And then you come to this kind of class and you're asking, what happened to my money? I'm telling you what has happened to your money. You've been living a lavish style alone. And that's what actually gave rise to Uber. Do you want a ride or do you want to own the car? That's the question you must ask yourself. Do I want to make sure anytime I want to go out, there's something to carry me to where I'm going and bring me back? Or do I just want to own it? Because owning it sometimes is a liability. It's going to make you poorer. Poorer because you take care of breakdown, you take care of fuel, you take care of all the things. The same thing is a silos mentality of African mentality. Look at our churches. Look at the gingerty side of the churches, that houses that only use Sunday and Wednesday. Okay, use it on Sunday or sometimes weddings. Even the weddings, you have a small space because not everybody come for wedding. Small space for the wedding. So the question is, why do churches want to own it? Imagine what will happen if the amount of money that was used to build that church was provided by the asset manager that built a church and said, every time you want to worship, we'll give you the space. You pay every Sunday for the usage. You pay every Wednesday for the Tuesdays. And the entire members of the church own this asset. At the end of the year, the same thing that UBA is doing, we are doing it for you. We create a model that allows every member who is part of this process to get dividend from what we are doing here. How will church in Africa be? How will it be? It's a question I'm asking you. Why do you want to own a 10,000 seater? Why do you want to own a 20? It's so much of a pride and it's nauseating. Guys, it's nauseating that we are part of a process that is doing this. You have places where people are happy that factories are closed so that they can acquire it and build a worship center, and they acquire a factory, build a worship center, and then the factory closes and the worship center comes in and it's of Sunday and Wednesday and it closes and nothing happens. Everybody goes home. Come on, guys. That is some of the mentalities that is driving us poor. So let me tell you one of the things that I'm going to conclude this because 10 minutes is in the next 4 minutes. I'm going to tell you one of the things I've experienced. A few years ago, I went to India for medical. I took my daughter to India, and something struck me about India, why India will continue to remain the place where everybody will come for health. And the same thing is happening in America today. The hospital is not owned by anybody. The equipment in the hospital is not owned by anybody. It's owned by a community of people who put themselves together and say, you will require the best machine. We're going to provide you those machines as a community. Everybody who uses it pay us for the use. So a doctor shows up in the morning in the hospital in India. He has his own office as a consultant, right? He gets paid by what the individuals paid according to how many hour rates he uses for that place. So they have the best of equipment. So there's nothing called the equipment is not working because it's not owned by the hospital. It's owned by the investors who have put down those equipment to ensure that everybody who comes there enjoys the best service and gets paid for. And they put a long plan to say this machine is going to last 10 years. So we're not going to drag you to pay us all the millions or millions today because it's been amortized over a 10-year period. So all we need to do is make 50K on this machine every day, and this machine will be replaced in the next 10 years, and it's been amortized over the period of time. So there's nobody's killing you. As a matter of fact, the Indian community has access to those hospitals at a subsidized rate because the international community who is coming to use the hospital are the one paying the bills, while the local people are paying a meager amount to have access to the hospital. Just oppose what we have in some of our places in Africa. I mean, you have cases where people have been seized in the hospital, seized as in virtually seized. You're not going home until you pay the bills in African communities. And all of them belong to a church. Come off it. All of them belong to a family. People who have been seized. Haven't you heard about people who have been in the hospital for 2 years? They can't go home because their bills cannot be paid. Come on. They exist. Because those are some of the hospitals that either is owned by government or is owned by individuals. I'm saying we can twist that about based on what we're doing. We are going to run a cooperative system that allows us to own institutions driven by a community system in this manner that I have described it. But you got to be part of it. It's not something you're going to raise your hand and jump up and jump down and you go home, you're not part of it. I'm going to conclude this discussion by saying there's something I have learned from ants, which is also something that is in the Bible. Say, go to the ants and learn. What are the ant model? Ant model is a summer and winter model. Summer and winter model is during the summer, ant, it doesn't have a leader, it doesn't have a captain, it doesn't have a god, it doesn't have anybody who's behaving. But everybody knows that during the summer, we're going to just continue to load our food into our house, work hard enough. They never get tired to ensure that we have enough food for summer so that during winter, we don't have to think blink. I don't know how many of you sitting down listening to me who are doing much in their summertime. And what is your summertime? You currently have a job. What are you doing with the job you're doing? What are we doing revenue lines that you're gathering in this period? If you want to grow a generational wealth with your revenue, you need to come together with some people to get that done. We must destroy this pattern of consumerism, this pattern of squandermania. Africans squander a lot of money. I don't know whether you have an Okada friend or a Keke Mama friend. Have you seen them eating? Have you seen an average meal of an Okada man? Have you seen an average meal of a bus driver? Have you seen an average meal of the people who are asking you for money? Have you seen the phone that the guy who's coming to look for a job in your office is using? Have you seen? Some of them, you're wondering what's going on here. Is a pattern that has been driven and is still being driven today by squandermania consumerism among our people. And I tell you today, if you want to create a generational world, those patterns needs to be deleted. So if there's something you will forget, I don't want you to forget anyway in today's class, don't forget my grandma's story of communal style of farming and harvesting. Don't forget my IPO story of people coming together to raise a bank, and there are too much of people proofreading and understanding how they. And don't forget the story I've just told you about the church system. If you can make an adjustment in these areas, I can guarantee you that, like I said in my last class, the easiest thing you can do today is to create wealth. Do not take my word for it. Just do your investigation. It will blow your mind how all of us sitting down here, if we gather down and do what we're doing today in the next 10 years, we will pay the kind of dividend that nobody has ever paid. You will have enough dividend to pay your house rent. You have enough dividend to pay your school fees, as long as you're going to be willing to continue to have this mentality that says, let's go together with minimal income. Can make that happen. I think at this point in time, I need my 10 minutes is over. Even though we have, this class is a bit scattered. I just have to take from every point to see how we can get here. But I believe that somebody here, maybe one or two people who heard me. We have about 73 of them. I'm not sure every 73 people heard me. Maybe 3 people heard me. If 73 people heard me, I would like to say it in the chat box to say, I heard what you said. But I'm here to talk to that one person who is saying enough. is enough. I am doing it again. And if I'm able to touch that one person, hey, my day is done. Thank you, guys.
I'm speechless. So even though I'm supposed to be the one to continue this conversation, Mr. Godswill, I don't know where you want me to start from because, okay, I'm just saying, because you touched on a lot of things, and let's start from the pattern. You said pattern. So how do people deal with this pattern? So I'm going to use myself as a typical example. So I grew up in a house where, my father makes the money and then he comes in, no planning. Maybe let's say it's July. We know that there are some certain things that we will do when it's December. We will not save up for it or plan for it. Then when December, maybe when it's November, then the salary of November is used to offset the bill in December, and then we have broke the rest of the month because there was no proper planning pattern. And you also mentioned the fact that, yes, your relationship with money growing up, the people who were around you, and how they handle money would affect. So if I'm in that state, how then do I get help? Because I'm sure that a lot of people are saying it's not my fault. I got my spending pattern from my parents or the people I grew up with. How do I break off from this pattern? How exactly?
Okay, let me start from you. One of the major things that has helped to create a new pattern is accountability partnership. And that's one of the reasons why I'm a student and I believe in institutional wealth. You remember the last time I said a lot of us will be slapped into heaven? There are certain things you are used to, you can't change. But when you belong to an institution force you into some behavior. For example, if you're a banker and you like to do certain things, when you come to the bank, they say you must resume at 8 a.m., whether you like it or not, whether you like your sleep or you don't like your sleep. If you want that job, you must resume by 8. When you do that resumption by 6, for you to resume by 8 in an office, if you're in VI, it means you woke up at 4, 5, right? By the time you do it for 3 months, your subconscious mind begins to accept that as something I need to start doing, okay? Because what you need to really do is to move your behavior from your physical state to a subconscious state where it becomes a default behavior. You don't think about it, you just do it. Like the way you drive a car. When you start learning to drive a car, is a physical behavior. The day you start driving a car, you know where the gear is, you know where the brake is. You don't even think, you just put your can. That's where I need you to be, where you are in an unconscious state. So what do you need to do? You need to attach yourself to an institutional behavioral pattern. Some of the institutional behavior pattern that you need to break. Some of you are currently, sorry, I'm going here again, aligning yourself to a church system that is enforcing this pattern you want to throw away. That's one area that has dealt with a lot of us. Or you're working in an environment where they don't believe in this institution. They are still enforcing it for you. Because you come into that place, like will attract like. You attach yourself to people who are like you by your friendship, because you don't want somebody who asks you questions. So I'm challenging you today. Begin to make friends with people who ask you questions. You said, Tolani, I saw this watch in your hand yesterday. How much did you buy it? Say, sister, are you the Chris? You need those friends who say, this is not the shoe I saw. This is not the shoe I saw you last week. You say, my daddy, we are doing sales. So you and sales, you have a problem, Shah. Are you getting where I'm coming from? As simple as they are giving you those touch point and nuances, you are beginning to say, I don't like what he will say when you see it. So you're not going to do it. Okay? Or you're having a relationship with somebody who is critical about those things, and say, no. What is your plan for the year? You want to relate with people who are asking you a year. What is that? I remember Praise took time out last year to do a lot of planning metrics. You only need people closer to you who are in that mindset, who every day ask you, where do you want to be in the next 2 years? I mean, I have a few friends who they avoid me now because every time I'm asking, guy, in the next quarter, what's your plan? What's your investment pattern in the next quarter? I say, guy, the only investments we'll be doing, can't we just live life? Okay, so because I have seen people who are mentoring me, when we live the life, we must ask ourselves, have we fulfilled our investment budget for this quarter? So who is asking you that question? How do you break? Align yourself institutionally with people and organization that reinforces this good behavior you want, and stay there. And ensure that everybody or individuals or institutions who are not who is helping you live lazy lives, you run it. I tell you, when you consistently do that over a period of time, it becomes a subconscious behavior. And at that time, you remember some of the things I'm talking to you are things that I did. But today I laugh around them because I have broken free by repetition, habitual change. Once you habitually keep doing that, even though they are not palatable, over time, that physical state depreciates over time and it becomes a subconscious behavior. Because if you're not careful, what happened to your dad will repeat itself. Or what happened to your family, if you're not careful, will repeat again. And you don't even know why they're repeating itself because you've not taken time to say, I'm going to delete this. Because if I don't delete this, my generational wealth plan will never come to fruition. I don't know whether we have other questions.
Thank you so much, Mr. Godswill. I agree with you when you talk about accountability. I remember when I started work, and like you have said, I picked up that behavior. I collect my salary on my way home. I see a fine shoe, I buy. A fine handbag, I buy. Fine clothes, I buy. And then I met TPF, Mrs. Principal, and she was asking, is this a new bag? Yes, I just bought it. This clothes is a new one. I just bought it. And then she says, so how much? You collected salary on Monday or on Friday. How much do you have left? And I'm looking at her. I spent like 60% of my salary in 1 week on buying stuff. Impulsive buying. And then because I had her as that accountability partner, she told me how much I'm going to save. I'm a master of saving. In fact, if there is any word to me, I'm so prudent with my money now. And yes, that's thanks to someone holding my hand and helping me to be accountable with my funds. But another thing that you said that struck me was when you say be in talking terms with money. That one, I don't understand. How are you in talking terms with money? And I can see that Todunke also mentioned that in the chat room. Let's be sure that I'm not the only one who is not, I don't know how I'm going to be in talking terms with money. I sit money down and start talking to money, or how is that done? We need to learn.
God. Okay, it was a metaphor, but what I meant by that metaphor is that money does not stay with you. Okay, what do you do with somebody you're not in talking terms with? They stay far from you. Okay? If I'm not in talking terms with you, is that every time I see you, I avoid you. When you come, I dodge you. Even when you come close to me, I'm willing to let you go immediately. Are you getting that drift? So the not being talking terms with God with money is that anytime you get a credit alert, your hands start scratching you. You know what that means? What that means is your hands start scratching you because you're not in talking terms with your money. I don't want him around me, right? So it's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. It's got to go. So every time any type of money hits you, your head automatically switches into what do I spend? What do I spend it? So over a period of time, it becomes a subconscious behavior. Even the money will start avoiding you. Because money wants to have a relationship with you, but if you don't want to have a relationship with you, subconsciously it begins to avoid it. That's what I call people, money will beget money. Savings, the day you start saving 10 naira, you'll be shocked that you want to begin to save 20 naira because the money begin to love you. They want to come closer. So the day you start saving 20, you want to ask yourself, how can I save 40? That's what happens subconsciously. So the same way is what happened when you start spending. The day you start spending 10. Okay, let me give you an instance. I did something very many years ago using phone. I called a lot of my staff. I said, anytime you buy that, then there was no USDSD for recharge card. I said, anytime you buy a recharge card, give me the card. I told them that's something I'm doing at LBS, that they should give me their card. Anytime you buy a recharge card, don't tweet it, just give it to me. I put a matchbox. I wrote each of their names. They didn't know I was doing a profile of their expenses on just recharge card. So everybody was bringing there. They were excited. When they buy, they switch it, they give me. On a particular meeting, I brought out everybody's recharge card. I said, this is how much you spend on recharge card every month from what I can say. What is the percentage of these expenses? Who are you talking to exactly? This data you have, what are you using it for? And it shocked everybody that you'll be shocked that a lot of people that do not have money, the data budget in their income line is more than 20%. You will be shocked. The average young girl out there in Nigeria who earns between 50K and 100K spends more than 20,000 naira on recharge card and data. That's what happens. And the rest goes into something frenzy. By the time you hit 21, on the 21 of every month, people are already broke. Because they're not, then exactly, they're already broke. Those are the patterns that I think needs to go to say, can you sit down and plan the month? To say, there's something I do with that. I used to have what I call an envelope model. Don't do it, please. Don't do it, but I'm going to just talk about in answering your question. Envelope model. The money you spend on cash is difficult to spend than the one you spend on your card. Is a psychological behavior. If I am going to buy things using my card, I'm going to buy more. If you're going to buy things using cash, you're going to buy less. Because it's a behavioral pattern. So you know what you do? That's why I'm an ardent believer that some of the money, some of the accounts that you want to create your wealth, don't take ATM on them. Don't have online on them. I've said in this class, don't have online platform on them. Don't do any transfer online on them. Don't have ATM card on them. Let it be hardcore analog. You have to go to the bank, make the withdrawal, make the transfer. You will shock how much you will have in that bank and you'll not make any withdrawal, and nothing will happen. No uncle will die, no auntie will die. The money will grow. So an envelope model is to say, how much am I going to spend this month to run my life, to run my expense? 25K. I put the cash in an envelope. Every morning as I'm about to leave, I go to that envelope and I take the cash. As a matter of fact, you lock your card. Try it for 1 month. You'll be amazed how little you really need to survive in 1 month. Little you need to survive in 1 month. It will amaze you. And then you invest the remaining. You put the remaining in our cooperative. And just do fasting. Money, people who know how to do spiritual fasting, but nobody does money fasting. And I'm teaching today, you need to do money fasting. This month, I'm not spending anything more than transport and fooding. Anything go, you're doing money fasting. I think if you plan and do that, you'll be better off. And then the generational wealth we talked about today will be easy. Like I keep saying, it's an easy thing to do. It's not difficult. It's not difficult. Guys, it's not difficult. We just have to come together and grow and be accountable to each other and help each other. And you'll be shocked what we will achieve in the next 5 years, in the next 10 years, growing together. Yep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, I see a question here.
Okay.
Okay, Ayo has a conversation coming up around relationship with money. Ask her how you can be part of it. Oh, okay. Tosin said Ayo has a conversation coming up around relationship with money. Please, you need to emphasize that. Is a session Ayo is doing. How can you be part of it? How do you galvanize certain old students associated to break from this pattern? How do you galvanize a setting old students association to break from these patterns and trends so that we can explore that community for good, like wealth creation? I think that's also a question somebody has said about old students. Old students, old students has become a place where we come to show off. Old student association now has become a place where we say, we went to school together. I need to show them that I'm doing well. The Igbo mentality will say, I am doing well. It's a place where people come to show that I'm doing well. Now, the only way, let me tell you, if you find out that you're not able to change that paradigm in that big setting, there is nothing wrong in excusing yourself from them. See, this journey of wealth creation is not something you want to do to please anybody. If you find out that this old student association is not helping you, delete. But how can you galvanize? Galvanize is by being in leadership. What I tell people is every time you want to make changes in a place, aspire to be in leadership position, because that's when people take you serious. So can you be the secretary of that OCN association? If you know that's what you want to do. Because if you're not involved in the meetings that decide what you will do, how do you bring changes in that space? The ESCOs will meet and tell you what we want to do. So get involved in that ESCO so that you can begin to make changes from that leadership space where some of those old student association will be converted to cooperative associations along the path where people are forced to be into. Because what we do in old student is somebody mother died, let's contribute money. There's a birthday, we are going, let's go there. How much are we putting together? We are doing this meeting now in Lagos. We are using this hotel. It's going to cost us 6 million. Somebody will put down 1 million. That's all we do in most of those places. The day you get sick and call your old student association, everybody will take a trip. Those are the issues. So go back to my grandma mentality. How can you get yourself and convert that space to a communal space where we're helping each other and growing together and getting wealth together? If it's not happening for you, delete. I think, Tolani, I think I've taken care of some of the, except if I missed out any.
Allow me to ask one more question before we wrap up. And so there is a place of shame also where people have some certain expectation from you. So recently, let me use myself as another example. I use a Samsung phone and I said, oh, I use this phone for 2 years. Let me sell and buy another one. And someone says, oh, no, you should buy an iPhone. I said, no, I don't want to buy an iPhone. Of course, the price is ridiculous. I just love my Samsung. And I hear you're a big madam now. By now you should be using iPhone and all of that. And I said, is it your use? I'm the one that knows what I use my phone for. Phone is not my priority. But I've seen other people who say, oh, why did you buy this? I bought it because of class or of status. How do you help such people? Because I feel like oftentimes shame of, oh, how do I say to this person that I don't have money? For me, when someone asks me for money, I didn't plan you part of my budget. Unless the thing you're asking me money for is a matter of life and death. You won't get shishi from me because I didn't plan you with my budget. So how do people get out of this space where they are ashamed to say, oh, I don't have this money, not because they don't have the money, but you did not budget this money for this person or for whatever this person is coming with. So how do we break out of that where we're able to say, no, I'm not going to do this because people are putting pressure on me, or I'm not going to do or give you this money out of shame or out of compulsion. What do you say to that, sir?
Let me give you a case study. I'm going to use myself as a case study. I worked in a bank where 13 of us, I was in treasury. Those days, treasury was one of the biggest places to work in a bank. So to the glory of God, I started my career in a treasury environment. And at that time, I was the only one that didn't have a DSTV. So I didn't have a DSTV. Everybody in that office had a DSTV. So now we are talking about sports was huge. So I was an outlier. I couldn't contribute. They would yap me and all that. 4 years down the line, I bought a house and I called all of them for housewarming. You know, there's something we talk about in this meeting, that money is the volume. You need to show that my behavioral pattern is superior to your behavioral pattern. Everybody will shut their mouth. As long as you're not showing, as long as you're still seeing you as being in their circle, they think they had an influence. The day you make a quantum leap, and make a statement. That's something you do. You make a statement. You make a statement by buying a Prado Jeep. That's something you do as an individual in your investment class. You make a statement. Say, guy, maybe you come to the office one day, you bring a dividend check of 1.2 million naira. I say, what's this? I just got a dividend from UBA, 1.2 million naira. Say, how did you do it? That is the day when you buy Nokia 3310. Everybody go and buy Nokia 3310. You know, our environment is driven by, I told you about how I was asked to park outside, even though I was the speaker. The only reason why I was asked to park outside is because I was using a smoker. I didn't get upset and say, decide, since I have the money, I'm going to buy a bigger car. Did I do that? So that's that what you're asking me. I didn't get upset. I made a statement. I made a statement by the things I did consistently. So you know what? Ignore and continue to move in the direction you believe is the best direction, but prepare for the day you make a statement. One of the statements you may make, Tolani, is one day you're going to show up in a house or an apartment in Yaba and you pay cash. I say, guys, I'm inviting you for my birthday. You show up. I said, I just want to use this as a watchman. I just acquired this house. From that day, they will ask you no question anymore. Because you have not made enough statement, Tolani, that's why they want to influence the kind of phone you will buy. Work hard enough, project yourself 5 years down, then they are like, make a statement, and everybody will shut their mouth. They will know that this person knows what she's doing. As long as you don't make a statement, they will continue to tell you, because people will ask you to buy a bigger phone and telling you it's class. class. Rubbish. What has who class help? Nothing. Nobody. They're still where they are 10 years ago when you met them. No movement, no improvement. So make a statement, keep doing what you're doing, make sure they are aggressive about it. One of these days you make a statement, maybe by the time we're going to be launching our first 30 apartments as a cooperative, and then you own one of those cooperatives, that would have been a statement you have made because you own one of our apartments. Like I said, if you cannot own the apartment, own the door to the apartment. If you do not own the door to the apartment, own the key. Own. That's one of the statements you have to make. Thank you very much.
Wow. Thank you so.
House of Saviors.